going to mission building using IL2 Sturmovik 1946. This is the map we're going to be using, and the first thing I like to do is put in my front line markers. So we go up here to view, go to objects, and scroll down to front line markers. We're going to put in red markers first, and how you do this is by left clicking your mouse on the screen and then hitting your insert key. And now we're going to put in our blue markers. Same way, left clicking on the screen and hitting the insert key. Now you straighten these markers up a little bit by clicking on the marker you want to straighten up and just dragging it around, and it makes the lines a little straighter. And that's how you put front line markers in. The next thing I like to do is the target area, and I selected this little town right here as my target area. And the reason being is it has a nice factory. It has railroad tracks and factory area right here, fencing around it and everything, so that's going to be our target. First thing I like to do is put point markers in. So you select your view and objects, and then we're going to scroll up to stationary objects, and then we're going to scroll down to point markers, and I'm going to put 25 point markers in here. And the way you do that is you select your building you're going to put point markers on, left click and hit your insert key. Now while this thing is flashing, you can go over to where you're going to put the next point marker in and just hit your insert key. You don't have to click anymore. And that's how you put point markers in. I skipped ahead a little bit and went ahead and put the point markers in that I wanted at this base. And the next thing I'm going to show you is how to put smoke in at these smokestacks right here. So you click view and objects and go to stationary objects, and then you see the smokes right here at the top, and I like to use smoke type number 5 on this. So you get centered right over your smokestack where you want to put your smoke, and left click and hit insert. And we want to see this as a 3D view, so you click on your enter key and it shows you your 3D view. Now the smoke is actually down at the bottom of the base, but you want to raise it into the air so it looks like it's coming out of the chimney. And the way you do this is you hit your F4 key and click on both of your left and right mouse button and scroll forward, or move your mouse forward, and it raises it into the air. Now you want to kind of center it, or we're going to move it down and center it over the top of where the smoke's coming out. And it looks a little bit to the right here, so we're going to move it. Now you don't have much control on where this smoke is, but if you hit your F1 key, it slows it down a little bit where you can move this smoke right where you want it to be. Now we want to put another smoke at the other smokestack, and this is a Good way of doing this, if you hit your insert key again, it adds another smoke in the 3D vision, so you can just scroll it right over and put it exactly where you want it to be. And there you go, both chimneys are going, and that's how you add smoke to your map. Now the next thing I want to show you is how to copy and paste objects that you've already got in one map into this map. So we're going to go to a mission I built, which is called Bridges Over Tokaree, and we're going to copy objects from this map, from that map to this mission. So here's Bridges Over Tokaree that I did, and we want to copy some trucks and everything from this mission to the other mission. So here's the trucks that we want to copy over. And the way you do that is you hold your Alt key down, you're going to draw a box around this area. So put your mouse up to the top of where you want to draw this box. Hold your Alt key down and then draw the box. And then it'll make every one of these icons selected and they're flashing. So the way you copy them is right click on the screen or on an object and say copy, and then all of them will stop flashing, and then now you can copy them to the other map. Start the other mission, and the way you want to copy these ones we copied from the other one is just right click on the screen and say paste, and it puts them into the mission. And you can move these around as a group, so you can put these anywhere you want to put them. Now you unselect these by hitting unselect, right clicking and hitting unselect, and you might have to do this a couple times to unselect them all. Now I don't want to use these trucks, I want to use German trucks. So to change these, I click on the icon, go to view and objects, and I want to change these into German trucks. I want to change these into German half-track trucks. So there's my German half-track, and now I want to change the other one. And there you go, there's how to copy and paste objects from one mission to the other. Okay, I went ahead and spruced up the place a little bit, and I've got some trucks in there and some guard towers, and just, use your imagination on what you want in your mission. But there's all kinds of trucks and German soldiers and everything is in there. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to put in stationary trains and moving trains. So stationary trains are simple, so you just go to view and objects, and you want to go to stationary objects, and we'll find a train locomotive here. So you just left click on the screen and hit insert, and there's your train. Now we want to see this in a 3D view. Let's get rid of this box here. So I'll see this in a 3D view, and we're going to rotate it. Now rotating an object is simple. Okay, you have slow rotation. You're using your keypad on your num keypad on your keyboard. Your slow rotation will be 9, and going back will be 7, so you can move it left and right. Fast rotation will be 6 and 4, and that's how you rotate. You can rotate it 360 degrees around if you want to. But so we're going to rotate this train and press our F1 key here to slow how fast the train moves. line that right up on the train tracks. Just as close as we can get it there. So there's our train on tracks, and the next thing we want to do is put a co-car behind it. So there's our co-car. And you got all kinds of, you spruce it up any way you want to. You got all kinds of different trains and cars and everything. You spruce it up the way you want to. And now I'm going to show you how to put in moving trains. So when you zoom out like this, you'll notice that the red lines are your train tracks and the black lines are your roads. So we're going to put a moving train coming out of here, because we got a good train depot right here. So you want to go view, objects, and then we want to go trains. There's a tab in here called trains. And we want a German train, so we're going to go down here to German train. There's a German fuel train. So how you put that in is you just left click on the track and hit insert, and that puts the train on the track. Now it looks sideways, but once you put in another waypoint, it'll straighten up on the track. So let's look at this train. This is an actual fuel train. You put in any kind of train you want, because it's got ammunition trains, equipment trains, whatever you want to put in here. So we want to put in a diesel long train. Let's see. Let's put in a long train here. German long steam train. So now you got your train up here, and we want to move it down here, and this is where it's going to stop, down here at this place. So you just left click on the tracks, hit insert, and that's where the train's going to go. So you'll see a flashing line that shows where it's going to start and where it's going to go. There's a property tag, and the property tag only allows you to select what army is going to be. It don't allow you to put a delay on the train or anything like that. So there's how you put in trains. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put in vehicles. Now we put this train in earlier, and now we want to put a row of vehicles in. So we're going to put I'm going to go to objects, and we're going to go to vehicles. Now we want to put in German vehicles. At the top of this list, you'll see it says US 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can put up to 4 vehicles in there. But at the bottom of this list, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you get to put in companies and columns. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a large mechanized column, 60 tons right here. And we're going to just put their starting place is probably about right here. So there's a large column. You can see all kinds of trucks and vehicles and everything that's going to be moving. And we're going to move them down the road to the town we just did. So you click on the road and hit insert, and that's where they'll end up coming to. we'll just run them off this field and set them in this field right here. Actually, we'll run them down and put them in this field, this big field right here. And that's how you put in vehicles. We got our target area all done. Next thing we're going to do is put in taxi and aircraft, or aircraft for you to fly, or for people to fly, but I'm also going to make them taxiing, where you have to taxi out to take off. So I'm going to go to view and objects, go stationary objects, and I'm going to go down to 3,238 for my blast pin. So there's my blast pin right there. Now, one thing you gotta realize about putting in blast pins and everything and making them taxi out of blast pins is you don't want to put them close to the taxi area, or to the taxi way. You want to set them a little bit back from the taxiway, because they've got to come out of here, make a turn, get on taxiway. So set them a little bit back. You don't set them too far back, just set them a little bit. And we're going to put in 4 of these blast pins, and we're going to kind of combine them together. You can combine different objects together just by putting them one into the other. Kind of use your imagination. So there's our 4 blast pins. Next thing we want to do is put in a flight of A-20s. So we'll go up to aircraft, and there's an A-20, but we want to put in A-20Gs. So you click on the screen, hit insert, and it puts a flashing cursor there. And whenever it puts in an aircraft, it's going to be automatically in the air, so you're going to have to tell it that you want it to take off. So you go to waypoint, and you want to tell it to take off, and it's going to move it to the closest runway. And this ain't a runway, this is actually a taxiway, but the runway's over here. So you can move this back, and then the way you get them to taxi is you go to this waypoint options and click on taxi for takeoff. And you want to set this right in the middle of the blast pin. And next thing we got to worry about is the spacing. Okay? Because we're going to go to the property tab, and we're actually going to put in 4 aircraft. So you got to remember that when this aircraft goes in, everything's going to be to the right of this aircraft. And if you put that aircraft down here, then all the airplanes are going to be down here. So you want to put them there. The flight's always going to be to the right of the lead aircraft, which is the lead aircraft. So the spacing is going to be 39, because I've already figured this spacing out. So it's going to be 39, and that'll put all the aircraft in these blast pins. Now, the next thing you want to do is draw a line, or put a waypoint out in front of the blast pin, and this determines which way the aircraft will be facing when you when you go into the mission. If you turn them like this way or this way, they're going to be facing that way, and then the aircraft will be kind of off to the center, so you want to center it up. And we're going to put in another taxiway point going up here, make them turn the corner and go out to the runway. Now you want to put another taxiway point down here, and the reason being is you got to make them turn onto the runway. They'll taxi out, follow this waypoint and everything, but if you make this your last taxiway point, they'll shoot straight across the field and never even turn down the runway. They'll just taxi to the last point that they come to. So you want to make them turn this corner, come down, and this is where they're going to end up taxiing until they take off. So now that you got your taxiway point down there, or your last taxi point way down there, we're going to make our next waypoint down here, and you want to center it. You want to center it on the end of the runway. If you make it either to the left or the right, then what will happen is they'll go down the runway and they'll actually be going across the runway and not even going down straight down the runway. They're going to be going crooked down the runway. So you want to put it straight down the runway so they're going straight down the runway. Okay, now that you got that one in there, we want to make this this last one, since this is where they're going to be in the air, we want to go to waypoints, and we're going to make this normal flight. Now 500 feet is the default for how much this is in there, which is fine, but when you add it to a normal flight, it's going to put the speed at 0, so you need to put 300 or however fast you want them to be. And you got to remember this is in meters and in kilometers an hour. So now we got our first waypoint in. We're going to make it go to the target area. So we're going to take it about up to here, and when you start putting in waypoints, you got to realize what terrain you're in, because this terrain right here is actually kind of hilly and mountainous terrain a little bit. So you got to make it more than 5,000 meters or 500 meters. I'm going to put mine up to about 5,000 meters, which is 3,024 is 5,000 meters or 5,000 feet. And now I'm going to turn these guys down the target area. Center up my lines here. Now we're at the target area. You got to get these guys to bomb the target area. If you put in just a regular fly icon, which is a dot, they're just going to fly over it and take and just keep following their waypoints and go back and land. But if you come over here and put a G attack, which actually stands for ground attack, it's going to put a bomb icon. And then you can take the set key, which is a target set key, and you can set it a target, and it'll put a green arrow with the crosshairs on it. So now this bomb group is going to know to bomb this area or try to bomb this building. So now we're going to take them and turn them to the south, turn them to the north a little bit. Still maintaining that 5,000 feet. Now, one thing you got to realize about putting in waypoints is whenever you put a height in and a speed in, every time you set the next waypoint, it's going to have the same height and the same speed that you put in. So if you need to change it, you need to change it for the next waypoint, you got to go in and put it in. So now we're going to make them turn and go out. Just up a little bit more. You might even run across those trains and the vehicles going down the road when you're coming out. And turn them back toward the home. And we're going to make this waypoint here as 500 meters. And we're going to get them to land. So we'll put this waypoint in right here where we want them to land. We're going to change this to landing, so that way that they got an icon for a landing icon, and it's sitting there flashing. It's landing. And now we're going to straighten up our waypoint here. And there you go. There's a waypoint, waypoints and how to put in taxiing aircraft. You might have to play around with taxiing aircraft if you want taxiing aircraft, because the way I like to do is I like to go over here to this plane 1, select it as a player, and you'll see a little flag here selecting that as a player. And then once you do that, you can go to File and save it, and then you can hit your play button, and you can play this mission through your mission builder and see how your aircraft are going to be taxiing out and everything like that. See if they're doing what you want them to do. And then once you do that, then you get back out of the game, it'll go straight back to the mission builder. So you got to play around with the taxiing aircraft, because they may not do exactly what you want them to do. So you might have to go out, see what they're doing, and then come back into your mission. So, but that's how you put in taxiing aircraft. Thing I'm going to show you is how to set up your flight. So we're going to click on our flight here and go to View and Options, and we'll have our flight right here. We'll go to the Properties tab, and inside the Properties tab you'll see the Army. It says Red Army. That's who it's to. When you set up a flight, it'll actually be defaulted to the Russian Air Force, and here I've got it set to the United States Air Force. So you can change that to different countries or whatever Air Force you want it to be. Next is regiment. You can set it for bomber squadrons or regiments or everything. I've got this set up for the 410th Bomber Squadron. And next is the squadron. This is the first squadron, first flight. And if you put in another flight, it'll be first squadron, second flight, first squadron, third flight, until you get to 4, and it'll switch over to second squadron, first flight, so on and so forth. Then your next tab is weapons. So you can have whatever weapons loadout you want on here, which I've actually got 1,000 pound bomb and 2 500-pound bombs. And next is your fuel. You can change the fuel loadout if you want to, but I got this one set to 100. Next after that, planes. You can have up to 4 airplanes in a flight. Skill level, this one's on custom, but you can, when you come into the game and you set up a flight, it'll be on average. And the reason why it's set on custom is because in the tab menus I've got each individual airplane set up on their own average skill. Next thing is AI only. If you want the AIs to fly this, be the only thing to fly this, you set the AI only. And then if you don't want them to have parachutes, you click the the icon here, and they'll have no parachutes. And you know about waypoints, and you know about waypoint options. So we'll go to the plane tab. Now in here, like I said, I got them set up on their skill level. Well, first we want to talk about this player tab right here. If this was a single player mission, you could actually select single player, and what I'll do is if I select on single player here, it'll put a flag in at the icon showing that that's a single player. That's where you'll start out as a single player. But also this is a good feature because what I do is I normally would select single player, go up here and save it, and then once I saved it, I can play it from this mission builder. So I can click on the play button, it'll go out, play the mission, and you can see how your airplanes are taxiing and what they're doing and everything. And then once you get out of the mission, it'll come right back to mission builder. So that's a good thing to have. So we don't want this to be player. So, and then on the skill level, I got this guy set up to veteran, and the other airplanes I've got set up to different. And this is average, and this is veteran. So you can set up their own skill level. And in skins, if you want them to have their own individual skin, you can set up each and every airplane in here to have their own individual skin. So this guy, I've got it set for the 410th bomb group. Then nose art. If you want each one to have their own nose art, you can click on here and go to the nose art. You can see it puts the nose art on the plane. But I don't want no nose art for this. And then pilots, you can set each one to have their own different pilot. Markings is just that, markings on. It shows this 01 on the plane. If I click the markings, it'll click off and click it back on. And then we got this spawn point down here. If you put a spawn point plane down, then you can set just a regular plane down, or a bomber plane just like this one, the A-20. You can hit the set key and set a spawn point for this where you want him to spawn in at. And that's basically how you set up your flight. Okay, I went ahead and added a few more flights and put a few more things in it area, but there's things I want to show you about your airplanes. Okay, if we take our bomber groups, which is right here, we actually click on this icon, this waypoint here, and we go to waypoints, and we set a target as this bomber group, and then we go to this bomber group, set a target as this bomber group. Now what this allows it to do is it's not going to attack this bomber group and everything, but what it'll do is to stay in formation with that bomber group. They'll try to stay in formations with those bomber groups. Same way with your P-51s down here. I added some P-51s. So if we take these P-51s and we set a target as this bomber group, and we do this to every one of them, what this is going to do is going to have the P-51s actually escorting the bombers. They're not going to be attacking them, they're just going to be escorting them. So we'll set up each one of those so they can escort these bombers in. So now your P-51s will escort your bombers in to the best of their ability so they can protect them as they go in. Okay, next thing I want to show you is I went ahead and added another target area. Here's another target area up here, and I adjusted the waypoint so that you run over this one and this one. So we're going to scroll into this one right here, and we're going to go to our view, go to our options, and scroll down to targets. Now we want to go destroy ground targets, and we're going to place this icon in here. Now what this is telling you to do is we're going to go to the property tabs here. First of all, you can adjust this circle that's flashing down a little bit where it's actually over your target area. Okay. Move it just a little. I'll probably take it down just a little bit more. Okay. Now, what this is doing is the ground a destruct icon that we place on here, and this is going to be our primary target area. Okay, because we can switch it from primary to secondary to hidden. Okay, and we want at least 50% of this to be destroyed so we can get a mission success, and this applies for the red group, which is us. And if we destroy at least 50%, then we'll get a mission success on the screen showing that we succeeded in the mission. Now we're going to go up to the other one, which is here, and we're going to place another one here. Okay, and we want at least 50% of this one destroyed too. But this one is not going to be a primary, it's actually going to be a secondary target. So this will be lit up in green, and the other one should be lit up in white. So that's your primary target area, and that's your secondary target area right there. Now, a lot of people like to do this, but some people don't. You go to static cameras. Okay, some people don't like put static cameras in there because they say it's cheating, but it's up to the mission builder. Okay, so I'm going to take and put a static camera right here, and what a static camera allows you to do is to view this target area while you're flying in the mission. I'll put another one right here for the secondary. Now the only options you have for the static camera is you have who army it belongs to, which is red. That means we'll be the only ones to see this static camera. If we had a flight of bandits in here that people could fly, they couldn't see this target area. Only we could see this target area. And then you have the height and meters of how high you can see this camera. You can put it way high or you can put it low. It's just depending on where you want it. So we'll go over this static camera and put it for red. And that's how you put in destruction icons and static cameras. Next thing I want to show you is triggering. So you go to view and objects, and you want to go all the way down to the bottom to triggers. Now you got 4 different types of triggers here, which we're going to use this one right here. put this trigger in here, and we're going to go back to the options. Okay. The first option on this trigger is a timeout trigger, which means you can time out that you can click on this and time out this flight. But when you run over this trigger, it'll trigger it, but it'll have a timeout on this trigger when it'll come in. And we don't want to use that. We're going to. This is the radius, which is 1,000 meters right now. We're going to take it up to 500 meters, or 5,000 meters, excuse me. Next thing on this is linked objects, and there's no links on this. And what this means is if you had a target down here and you link this trigger to that object, if the bomber group comes in and destroys that object, then this trigger doesn't work. Next thing is activate on existing radius, which means it'll activate on this radius. And we'll leave that unchecked. Probability is, it's 100% probability that when you run into this trigger that they're going to activate. You can take this down to whatever percentage you want, but I'm going to leave it at 100%. Next one is altitude minimum, which is going to be 0, which is the ground. Altitude maximum, which is 10,000 or 10,000. Number of objects. What the number of objects minimum means is how many objects it takes to activate this trigger, which is just 1. And I'm gonna leave it at 1. And next one is applies for humans only, which means human players in the game are the only ones that's going to be able to activate this trigger. Okay, and the next one is trigger activated by army, which is going to be red. This only the red army can activate this trigger. And then this objects triggered. There's no objects selected, but we're going to select this objects right up here. So now when you run across this trigger, this group of fighters will actually spawn in and start flying this way. Now I would suggest you go into HSFX. There's a HSFX README inside your folder that gets put in there when it's installed, and it's triggering version 1.2, and I would suggest you reading that about triggers. There's a lot more about triggers in that PDF, and I really suggest you read it. And that's how you put in trigger. Okay, we're pretty much done with this mission. I already went ahead and added some more flights of bandits in and everything. Next thing we're going to do is the briefing. So you go up to edit and you go to description. Okay, and we're also going to figure out the conditions. Okay, so you got your condition right here, and the weather on this is going to be good. You can make it anything you want: clear, hazy, poor, blinding, rain and snow and thunder, but it's going to be clear. If you make it rainy and snowing, it's going to be real dark. You can't hardly ever you can't see anything. So you know, but you're the mission builder. You do what you want to do. Next thing is the cloud height. I've got mine set at 800 meters. Wind direction. You can set the wind direction if you want to. I normally don't, but that's me. Next thing is the date. I got this set at 10:30 in the morning. Is October the 15th, 1944. And next thing is miscellaneouses. I have no idea what the static time is for, but the no user loadout, which I'm going to check, when you go into the game, when you go into the mission, it means the loadouts and the fuel will be locked. It means they can't change it. And the next thing we're going to go over is the briefing. So in your description here, first thing is your mission name, which is factory attack, and I like to put 24 players. That means there can be 24 pilots, bombers and P-51s in this mission. Second thing is the short, which actually is a short description of what the mission is all about, but I like to put what planes is being flown in the mission, which is A-20s and P-51s. And the next thing is a full description, which I have the date, the time, the weather, the cloud height, and then a brief description of what you need to do in the mission. And this is kind of important. You need to tell, when you write out a briefing, you need to tell the people who are flying the mission what they need to do to complete the mission and everything. And then I always down here and write out what they need to take and how much fuel they need to take. And that's basically all there is to do about you need to know about building a mission. So if you have any comments or anything, you can email me at cviper107@yahoo.com, and hope to be hearing from you.